So you're interested in franchising, you've decided to look into the franchise world, you're looking at costs of 50 grand, 100 grand, 300 grand to build your own franchise business. If so, stop. Because this decision is going to dictate your life for the next 5 to 10 years, and you need to know exactly what you look into to make sure you're not getting into a money pit and actually have something that could set you up for success forever. Now, I've evaluated truly hundreds of different franchise brands. I've built 40 of my own locations and sold 40 franchise locations for my own franchise business, and I've watched other people build themselves a financial prison because they picked the wrong brand, and I want you to avoid this mistake. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the franchise world: the good, the bad, the ugly, what to look for, red flags, green flags, how to actually evaluate a brand and pick something that's the right fit for you. Let's get into it. So when you're starting to look at franchise brands, you're probably doing something that everyone does, which is go to Google and type in best franchises near me or best franchises to buy in 2026, whatever it is. Here's the thing. There are 4,000 franchise brands in the US, and just a fraction of them are listed online. That's why many times you see the same ones over and over and over, because it's just a small portion of those brands which are actually listed. So how do you navigate 4,000 brands? Well, here's how it works in the franchise world. I'm going to give you some inside scoop about this. When you go to type in best franchise to buy, whatever, you might see entrepreneur.com with a listing. You might see Franchise Gator, Biz Buy Sell, whatever. These are all pay to play platforms, meaning the brands which are paying to get promoted on there are the ones typically listed. Not always. Sometimes, like for example, we are on the top new and emerging franchise brands on entrepreneur.com. We didn't pay for that. So some of the lists are legit, but many times, especially on the portals like Franchise Gator, Biz Buy Sell, whatever, these top lists, they're all paid. So you're seeing the people who are paid to be on the list. Now, typically this means, number one, maybe the franchisor has money. That's why they're paying to be on the list, and they're actually growing. Or maybe they're like funded and private equity backed, and they're throwing money at having a big name. Typically, big names don't mean big profits always. Many times it's just the hottest new brand. So beware of where you're getting your information, because realize that the way things work is pay to play. Now, another way the franchise world operates is through franchise consultants and brokers. Now, if you started looking at franchises already, I'm guaranteed you're probably going to hit up on LinkedIn with DMs of consultants who would help you find a brand. Now, a lot of consultants are great, right? They help you curate the different brands to look at, figure out what's actually working and not working for you, all that kind of good stuff. Here's how it works with the consultant world. Most consultants are part of a network. There's a bunch of networks. We're part of one called FranServe. There's FranNet. There's a billion of them. These networks, there's contracts with franchisors in those networks. And typically, these consultants are showing you brands which are in their network. Now, the good thing is a lot of these networks have a lot of brands in them, right, that are listed and have a contract with them, but they don't have all the brands. So if you do start working with a consultant, realize they're showing you the things which are in their inventory, but this is not all the 4,000 options which exist. So do your own research. Now the question becomes, Neil, how do I do my own research? There's 4,000 brands. How am I going to possibly check this out? My recommendation is to narrow it down to certain industries you might want to dive into. Typically, the biggest industries would be home service brands. They would be food and beverage. They would be entertainment and other type of brick and mortar operations. So the frame I think you should come at it is, am I okay with a build out? A build out means getting a lease, getting a brick and mortar store. You might have I have a buddy who runs a Smash Room franchise. I have another buddy who runs a gym concept. These are all brick and mortar locations where there is a build out. Typically the cost is going to be higher because there's a build out. So keep that in mind. If you don't want that, that's okay. Eliminate that, right? Eliminate the build out from it. There's other concepts which are restaurant concepts. There's a lot of restaurant concepts, fast casual concepts. There's going to be a build out as well. Normally when you have a build out, you're looking at least 200 to 300,000 minimum to build out the location. Many times they're great. Like for example, McDonald's is $1 million buy-in, but they kind of print money. It's just really freaking hard to get $1 million in cash, right? So think about what types of industries you want to go in. Home service, typically the barrier to entry is lower. Many brands are going to cost less, but of course the product is labor. So a lot of the issues are you're going to have to deal with people. So you have to make sure you're okay with that as well. So try to narrow down what niche you're going in. And I think the best way is pretend you want maid service or cleaning. You type in best cleaning franchise for maids 2026 and realize some of them are going to be paid, but look on ChatGPT, look on Google, do a deep dive of all the different maid service franchises, which maybe aren't listed online on the first page, right? Figure out by diving into a hyper niche of what you might be interested in. I think that's the best way to get started. Now, in the franchise world, there's two concepts. One's called an emerging brand and the other one's called an established brand. What's kind of crazy is an emerging brand is technically any franchise which is under 50 units. That under 50 units sold, they're called an emerging brand. To me, 50 sounds like a lot, but that's just how it works in the franchise world because some locations have hundreds of thousands of units, things like that. So the bigger question for you would be, do I want to go with an emerging brand or do I want to go with an established brand? There's there's three factors that depends on. One is capital. How much money do you have to invest? Because many times established brands might cost a lot more. Is the territory available? And what type of entrepreneur are you? Those are the three different factors which go into this. Let me explain this a little bit. Number one, capital. Many established brands, there's a lot of build out. There's a lot of build out costs. Not always, like for example, home services, you can still find some established brands which are cheaper build out, but a lot of established brands which have a lot of different units, the build out's going to be a little bit more and the cash outlay is going to be a little bit more. They don't cut deals and any of that kind of stuff. Keep that in mind. The next thing would be, is your territory available? This is a big one. Let's say you live in Los Angeles, but the entire territory is sold out and the only thing available is something in an obscure location, which is very far away from you. That kind of sucks, right? Especially for your home services, because you're going to have to go out to the location. So keep in mind, like, is your territory even available and how big is the territory? These are things to think about. Emerging brands, most territories are available. It's super established brands, like for example, Orange Theory. Orange Theory sold out of the whole nation. They were completely sold out. So if you want to get an Orange Theory, you have to buy it from somebody else. That's an example of what happens with some very large scale established brands. The next bit is, what kind of entrepreneur are you? Now, people who buy McDonald's or people who buy things like that typically want more surety. Many times they're kind of a portfolio Paul is what I'll call them. They just acquire a location. They're like, I'm going to add this to my portfolio. I'm going to let it run. I'm going to put a manager in the place, all that kind of stuff. Many times I've only seen that work with brick and mortar and heavily established brands like McDonald's, where you truly could just buy it as an asset. There's very few businesses that you could buy and just run as an asset. Very few. Typically, the cash outlay is going to be very large for those as well. So keep that in mind. For home services, because that's what I know, I don't believe there's a such thing as passive investment. I don't believe there's a such thing as you could just buy and insert a manager. In fact, I would advise you to run away from any brand which has that in the home service space. The other part with an established brand is, let me put it this way, many times it's like you're buying a job that has a little bit more autonomy. That's kind of what established brands are. You follow their guidelines, you follow their playbook. There's not much room for innovation. Sometimes people who come from the corporate world, they don't want to figure things out themselves at all. They just want to follow a playbook. They want to like buy a job. Many times that's what established brands are. Not always, but many times. If you feel like you're a little bit more entrepreneurial, you want a little bit more wiggle room, you want access to certain territories, and you're okay with maybe the franchisor doesn't have every single needed retail figured out, I would go with the emerging brand route. Typically, if you're slightly more entrepreneurial, you're going to have more of a good time in emerging brands. If you kind of want to be honest, buy yourself a job, and that's okay, go with a more established brand. Now, if this is your first business and you've never done something serious in entrepreneurship, my actual recommendation, my opinion is, don't buy into a brand which costs 500 grand plus. It's going to be super expensive SBA loan. It's a lot of risk for something which is brand new to you. It's kind of like starting a career and taking on a bunch of debt for this brand new career and you don't even know if it's going to work out. Like, getting in entrepreneurship is a new career path. I would recommend, if you want to go big, like, do it once you actually have your chops and understand what you're doing. If you're brand new into entrepreneurship, my opinion, and you want to get into franchising, find a low-cost franchise. There's a lot of them. Made This, for example, our all-in cost is between about 50 to 70 grand in the first few months, including the franchise fee. That's called a low-cost franchise. We have financing options and all that kind of good stuff. There's a lot of brands like that. What I will say is double-check the support system depending on the cost. I saw a maid service brand. I won't say what it is. Their buy-in was 10 grand. And, they have royalties and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people might think like, 10 grand, that's easy to get into. Their units are closing left and right because there's no support system. The truth is, like, brands need some money coming in to have a really freaking strong support system to support you. So just because a brand is super cheap doesn't mean, hey, I'm going to buy into that. There's financial options available. There's a lot of stuff for different brands, even low-cost brands. My honest recommendation is, don't take out a 500 grand SBA loan if this is your first time in entrepreneurship. That's a risky proposition. There's kind of a psychology when it comes to how much you're spending in a business as well. And there's two sides of it. For example, if I go to the gym and I've already I haven't paid ahead of time, I just go and I pay when I go there. I might go to the gym, I might not go to the gym. I don't have any money lost if I don't go, right? But if I've already paid $2 grand for a trainer per month, hell yeah, I'm going to the gym. I'm trying to get my money's worth, right? It's kind of the same concept when you buy into a franchise or a business. You've put money in, you've outlaid money. It might make you uncomfortable, but you devoted time to it and money to it, you're going to see it through. That's generally human psychology, right? I think that's a fantastic thing. And to be honest, I think that's a reason by itself to buy into a franchise is there is added motivation to actually get you to do the thing. If you've ever had trouble actually following through with plans, if you built a bunch of business plans but never executed on it, what do you think is going to happen when you spend 40 grand on a support system to help you build your business? You're probably going to have higher chances of doing it, right? So that's the good stuff. The downside is, let's say you spend 500 grand, $1 million on a build out for a location. You leverage everything on this location. Sometimes that could lead you to make bad decisions, right? You're making more money decisions. You're operating from a place of scarcity and your mindset's not like, I'm going to spend money. You're going to be like, crap, I devoted everything to this. I need to make it work could be good. I don't want to invest more in marketing because it's not working and I'm really scared because I took out so much money. Bad. Right? When you're going to spend money in a franchise, I want you to be somewhat uncomfortable. You shouldn't be in your comfort zone to spend the money. However, I do want you not to spend a crazy amount where you're going to sacrifice your psychology or sacrifice your decision making because of how much freaking money you're spending. I've seen too many people. As a buddy of mine bought into a roofing franchise and took out a loan for I think $600,000 his first rodeo into business. It didn't go well. The support system wasn't there. He didn't vet this properly. This is a brand which paid a lot of money to consultants, paid a lot of money to get listed on all the things. So it was a very public brand, but didn't have a good support system. He closed down in a couple years, right? And he's on the hook for $5,000 per month for the next 99 months to pay this out. So keep in mind to understand your own psychology. You should be uncomfortable with doing something novel, but don't be so uncomfortable where it's going to make you make a bad decision. All right, here's some red flags in the franchise world you should look at. And I get pretty pissed off with brands who put a bad name on the franchise industry because I think franchising is a fantastic way to generate wealth if done the right way. There's a lot of bad apples here because there's a lot of money to be made. Is the truth. So some things I want you to watch out for. Number one, high pressure sales tactics. Salesperson's like, you must close by this time. We're moving fast, so we got to get you in. We're not going to let you in. Like any of these high pressure sales tactics, I don't like that. I feel sleazy because the truth is you're making a big decision with yourself, with your family's financials. You should be thinking about this. Now, don't drag your feet like others. You're not going to make a real decision, but if anyone's giving you high pressure, be wary with that sales process. Franchise consultants, something else I'll watch out for. Now, I'm not saying don't work with franchise consultants. There's a lot of great ones that can help steer you in the right way, but realize they have a roster of franchise brands that they're pushing, right? And each franchise brand has a different negotiated rate with these brokers typically. So one franchise brand might pay them $40,000 for a location sale, and another one might pay them $15,000. Who do you think they're going to introduce you to? This is not always the case. I know amazing brokers who just want you to find the best brand for you. The truth is, though, you should understand where the incentives lie and take it with a grain of salt. So beware of brands that you're presented with. Work with consultants because I think they're great and they can help guide your decision, but just keep this in mind. So in the FDD, that's the legal document you're going to receive when you start looking into franchising. There's a section called the Item 19. Item 19 shows the financials of a lot of different franchise locations, right? So you could assess for yourself whatever other locations are doing. Brands which don't have an Item 19, red flag. I personally would not invest in a brand which doesn't have Item 19 unless they're brand new and I really like the founder and I trust them. Like, it has to be something exceptional. But there are brands like you're not required to disclose it. We disclose it because I want to be transparent and say, hey, here's what our franchisee is doing. You could take a look. Some brands don't disclose it. So if there's not an Item 19, I would not purchase the brand. Some people recommend looking at the Item 19 for everything. They say, go to Item 19, analyze it. If the numbers don't look good, don't do it. I don't fully believe this tells the full story. So take it with a grain of salt, do your own diligence, create your own model, all that kind of stuff. But a brand must have Item 19 for you to consider them. I would also look at what the sales reps are telling you in terms of how much money you can make. Here's the thing. In franchising, you are not allowed to prank promises about how much money you can make. Franchising is regulated by the FTC, so we literally legally cannot say this. Regardless, there's brands who say, if you join, you'll make $10,000 in a month. I guarantee you'll replace your income by X time, which is illegal, but sales consultants still do it because they don't care. If anyone gives you promises of how much money you can make, red flag. They should not be doing that. And the truth is, in entrepreneurship, no one could promise you anything because it depends on how much work you put in. So you could look at the Item 19 to get some information from other locations of how they're tracking. You could look at social media profiles and videos they put out for case studies. But if the sales consultant's telling you, you will make X amount of money, red flag. They can't do that. One thing I'd be wary of, to be honest, is super hot brands that are all over publicity. I've seen this time and time again. I didn't come from the franchise world. I didn't know this is how it works. But over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen hot brands like that everyone's pumping, talking about selling 100 units in 1 year, scale, and then just crash and burn. I've rarely seen brands who are hyper growth, like growing really, really fast, selling 100, 200 units in a year, who've done well. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I do think a lot of maybe brick and mortar, there's cases like this, but typically high profile, fast growth brands and they're brand new, I'm extremely cautious of. Because as a franchisor, I know what it takes. And the truth is things have to change fast for franchisees, right? The software system you're using on day one is not going to be the software system that you use on year 1 or 2, right? It's going to change. But if you already sold 100 to 200 people on that concept with an antiquated system, and then you have to rechange them out, it's a lot of freaking work and it's hard to do that. So many times when they scale, people don't have the right systems. Franchisors don't have the right systems to help support franchisees. I like seeing brands have slow and steady growth, have happy franchisees, have case studies, have transparency. If a brand is launched on day one and they're going like this, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. That means they're probably paying brokers a lot of money, have really good marketing. Maybe it's good, But this is something I'd say yellow flag. Beware of brands which are selling 100, 200 units in 1 year. It's kind of a red flag. So typically the sales process in a franchise brand is going to be between 30 and 90 days. 30 to 60 days is about the sweet spot, but 30 to 90 days, you should come to a decision. What I've seen in the franchise sales process is like a lot of people drag their feet and many prospects wait to day 90 before making a decision. I don't recommend that. Like if you're going to do this, do it in the first 30 to 60 days and tell them no if you're not going to be involved in the process. Typically how it works is you have an intro call for qualification. You might sit through a presentation to explain the concept to you. They'll say, hey, here's some numbers for the FDD. Go do your own financial model. Come back to us with questions and ask a lot of questions. The questions I personally love hearing during the franchise sales process is what to expect in the business when you join. Not just the numbers of like, oh, how much do I expect to make? Not that, but what's my day-to-day life look like? What am I going to do? What sort of support do you offer to me when you will launch? How much time investment do I need to put in? What are my expectations for first year in terms of time investment? These are the right questions to ask because it lets you know what work is needed for it. If all you're asking is questions like how much money can I make, do X, Y, and Z, there's no way to answer that because there's too many variables. How much you spending on marketing? How much time are you putting in the business? There's so many variables. But what's pretty consistent, which you should know, is what are the top performing locations? What are they doing for their day-to-day? Not how much money they're making. What are they doing for their day-to-day? Where are they spending their time? What are they doing for marketing? These are the great questions to ask, in my opinion, throughout the sales process. So as you go through the process, you'll do your own financial model. You look at the FDD. You have questions about the FDD. You'll sign what's called the FDD receipt. So the franchisor will send you the FDD and say, hey, just sign the red receipt, which is totally fine because that is something that legally franchisors, we have to disclose the FDD to you at least 14 days before you're allowed to sign anything official. So to have you sign the FDD as a red receipt doesn't obligate you anything, doesn't award you anything. Then 14 days after that's the earliest amount of time where you could actually buy the franchise and get started. No, the FDD is a massive document. You could read it line by line, or you could throw it in ChatGPT, like whatever. You do your own diligence when it comes to the FDD. There's certain items which I think are most critical. I would probably want to know if I'm a franchisee prospect, what's my expected spend, which is typically item 7, I believe. Item 19 is the franchisee's financials. Definitely take a look at that. You'd want to know main fees. So what are the fees involved? So like, what's my royalty fee? Is there a national brand fund fee? It's a question to ask. Are there ongoing tech fees and marketing fees? What does that cover? These are questions to ask for fees. Some sneaky things I think you should be asking brands just to make sure they don't do. One question, if I close, do I owe you any fees? See what they say. I've heard horror stories of someone saying, hey, I'm bankrupt, I'm closing. They're like, oh, okay, you owe us royalty for the next 5 years still on the minimum royalty requirement. And you're like, dude, what? Like, that's kind of crazy, right? For us, we don't do that, right? So if you close, don't worry about it. If you close, we'll help you close. You walk away, that's okay. You know, that's how it is. And I feel like that's how business should be done. So ask them what sort of fees there are if things don't work out. Are there minimum performance requirements, which most brands have that. We have that. And it's typically intentionally set pretty low. So check out what the minimum performance requirements as well. Main things that like you want to look out for, like gotchas, would be there's a section there where franchisors have to disclose if they're in bankruptcy, if they are in litigation. They have to disclose all this stuff. So take a look at it. See if there's any red flags in the document because franchisors have to disclose this in the document. Buying a franchise can be absolutely life-changing. I truly believe this is one of the best vehicles to have generational wealth. There's stories of the Flynn Group. There's stories of Shaq having 40 plus franchise locations. There's stories of so many celebrities getting in the franchise world because it is a repeatable process to build a business which can be transferred to multiple businesses at a time. It's the easiest way to scale in entrepreneurship, in my opinion. Now, that is only true if you do things the right way and you pick the right brand. If you're rushing without doing your homework, you might tank and it might destroy you financially. You might be out of the game entirely. You do not want to be out of the game. The way entrepreneurship works, in my opinion, is you have a lot of bats. You're not going to win all of them, but you have a lot of bats. Don't make a decision which is going to wipe you out forever and you're out of the game entirely. If you lose one decision on financial area, at least it doesn't wipe you out. You can get back in the game and keep growing. Make sure you do your diligence. Don't just type into Google best franchise brand. Talk to multiple consultants. Talk to different groups, talk to different franchise prospects, talk to every franchise brand you can get a hold of in the niche you want. Do your diligence properly, check the FDD, make sure you know what you're getting into, and then make a solid, informed decision without analyzing too much. Overall, I'd say trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is, right? If you see red flags, bring it up to the franchisor, see how they respond, seeing if that goes along with your gut as well. Trust your gut through the process, right? If something feels off, but this is a high-hyped brand, don't always trust it, right? Trust your gut, trust your instincts, do the analysis, and make sure you're ready. Now, if you want to find a franchise which already checks all these boxes, which is low cost, which has won a bunch of awards for top franchisee satisfaction, top culture award, top support system, all that kind of great stuff, check out Made This Franchise. This is the brand I run. I run a fully remote cleaning franchise called Made This. I've used it to travel the world for over a decade, building my own LA location. Currently, as I film this, I'm actually in Rwanda, in East Africa, filming this and working remotely here. Our franchise locations, we have about 40 franchise locations across the US now. They're trying to build the same thing. Not all of them want to quit their job and travel, but many of them want to build a business which helps support their lifestyle. We have franchisees who are living in RVs now after they launch their location. We have franchisees who are working remotely. We have franchisees who've bought 3 or 4 locations. Everyone gets in the business for their own reason, but what we focus on is making this a franchisee first environment. That's why we've won awards like Top Culture, Top Franchisee Satisfaction Awards. You can see a bunch of case studies of locations on the Made This Franchise page of people who've done well. The thing is, I even post the case studies of people who've had to close down for whatever reason. My goal is to be as transparent as possible. So if you want to try to find a brand that checks all these boxes, that you could trust, that has awesome culture, check out Made This Franchise and see if it's a good fit for you.